trying to figure out who to get to recap all the NBA frenzy over the weekend with Kyrie Irving re-signing with the Mavericks for lower than expected. Seth Curry coming back for a third stint with the team. Dwight Powell taking a pay cut. And the guys were all throwing out the names. And I was like, no, Kyrie Irving is only writing back one person. And that is our old buddy, the former Celtic Brian Scalabrine, because of this on NBC Boston.
Kyrie will be asking for a trade by February.
By February.
Kyrie or Luka by February.
Can I get the under on that? Like,
no, I mean you can't even do it till December 15th. So.
Yeah, which means December 16th.
There's no way this is going to play out. No way.
You don't think so?
Play out?
Not 3 years. No, I don't think so. I think at least the season.
Nah. They
Not
were fourth.
special.
They traded for Kyrie. To fourth in the West.
Right.
They went out of the playoffs.
And they went to 11th. And they were tanking at the end to preserve a draft.
Yes.
What the heck?
You got to pay $42 million to keep that chemistry going.
Yeah.
So,
So basically, it's all going to fall apart. Okay.
No, I mean, it's not going to fall apart.
It's all gonna fall apart.
He's going to ask to be traded, and then Dallas will get a better situation around him.
And Kyrie was not thrilled, tweeting back to Scalabrine and company, I could be King Petty Johnson in this situation, but y'all honestly aren't worth it. Me and my A11 even tribes say hello, LOL. And Brian Scalabrine is joining us now here on Shan and RJ 105.3 The Fan. Good morning, Brian.
Yeah, it was odd. You know what? It's funny. He tweeted back at me, but I'm not good with social media. I didn't even realize that he did. Yet my inbox is getting filled with all kinds of, whatever. All I did was bring up the point. It's not like Kyrie Irving didn't ask to be traded from Cleveland. He didn't ask to be traded from Brooklyn. And he's probably going to ask to be traded from Dallas at one point.
So you were not surprised that other offers throughout the league were not pouring in to try to steal him from us?
I mean, I think teams need to win now. I believe that teams think that they could put together sort of I just think there's more parity in the NBA now. And you look at what Miami did, what you hear about all their undrafted guys and, in the culture that they have, I think people are valuing that a lot more. And listen, I know that Kyrie is an amazing talent. Maybe at his size, maybe the best to ever do it from a talent standpoint. I got a chance to cover him. I was blown away daily by what he does. But I also seen, him give up, third quarter leads and be disconnected or call his teams out and not play the next night. And the most frustrating part, and I'll give you a great example, when he was in Brooklyn, and this bothers me to no end, but I get it. It's the NBA. But when he was in Brooklyn, they played the Philadelphia 76ers and James Harden was playing. And I guess they got into it a little bit before James Harden got traded to Philly. Kyrie Irving murdered James Harden. I mean, flat out embarrassed him, not just offensively, defensively as well. Locked him up, murdered the guy. But so let's get this straight. So you're going to murder James Harden in some meaningless game, but other nights you're just going to check out defensively and not guard these players that you're much better than. So I get the talent side of it. I just don't get the consistency side of him at all. And when it starts to go sideways, it isn't, I got to play better. It's always something different than that. It's not like, yeah, you know what? My defense in the third quarter was awful. I was laying on screens. I wasn't fighting through. It was my fault for the team to get back into the game. It's never that. It's always some other crazy random thing of why it didn't work out, but as opposed to just competing and playing hard.
You mentioned the consistency side, the talent side. What about the fit side with Luka and the Mavs?
Well, I mean, I think they're in the league now. I think they could do better than they did last year. I think Luka needs guys like Finney Smith and Spencer Dinwiddie, those type of guys. But I do like what they're doing, trying to get more size at the rim. So there's a way that they could improve their roster from last year. They kind of got caught thinking if we could just score more, we'll be fine, or if Luka's out, we'll be fine. But I just, two guys that want the ball, Luka leads the NBA, and every time he touches the ball, how long he has it in his hand. So, Kyrie wants the ball in his hands, Luka does as well. I'm not sure, the rest of those guys are going to enjoy playing with those guys, but if you can get enough hard-nosed players around them, maybe they can defend at a much higher level. And I'm not talking about just their total points per game, I'm talking about when they went to the Western Conference Finals. What no one talked about that year when the Boston Celtics made their run and they went to the finals was the defense of the Boston Celtics. It was amazing. They turned a corner when they were 18-21. They got their defense right. Yeah, but Dallas was second in the league that year in their defense, and they were pretty amazing defensively. I just don't see how, like Kyrie Luka combination without having crazy size across the board is going to give you a top 5 defense in the league.
Talking here with Brian Scalabrine. On that point that you were just talking about there in terms of the fit and the offense and everything else, I know you've said before that you think the key to attacking these modern NBA defenses is going to be the ball movement and getting the ball around the perimeter and everything else. Is Luka's isolation game, which is so much just kind of take the ball, run down the clock, and make something happen on his own, does that ultimately, you think, put a cap on how effective the Mavericks can be in the Western Conference?
I don't want to put a cap on him because, I feel like he gets good shots for everybody else. There could be some sets where, here's a good example. I got this theory in the NBA, and from a player that's playing and, seeing guys all the time. Like, if we're playing hoop, right, and I got the ball, I dribble handoff to you. You throw it back to me, I drive, I kick it to you. I always feel like if you touched the ball in the possession, gave it up, and got it back, I always feel like you have a better chance of making it than if you just, played defense, stood around, and all of a sudden someone throws you the ball, and now you got to make a shot. So I feel that ball movement is better from that standpoint. And you can look no further than the two teams in the finals. And by the way, the fact that Tyler Hero used to have the ball in his hands all the time, I thought Miami moved the ball so much better. You look at their offensive rating, their ball movement, their passes per game, the way that they work the clock. Both those, the Miami Heat really benefited from the multiple ball movements, and they really dominated through the Eastern Conference playoffs with their ball movement. And the Denver Nuggets, those guys moved the ball. Obviously, they got one of the best passers or the best player in the game. So yeah, I think that there's a benefit to that style of play. But with that being said, there are some guys that it doesn't matter. They're so lethal as shooters that they don't need to touch the ball, get it back, give it up, get it back. They don't need to do all that. So you just got to make sure that you're finding the right guys because you can't argue the amount of wide open shots that Luka Doncic gets people because he just reads this game at such a high level.
Is there anyone that Kyrie reminds you of that you played with or that you coached back in the day? Is there anyone else mind-blowing Hall of Fame talent, just an enigma that you could never figure out?
Skill-wise, and then the lack of defensive stuff and all the other stuff. No, I haven't. No, I mean, I to be honest with you, I was really fortunate. In my 11 years in the NBA, you can make a strong argument that I was on 8 of those years. I was on championship level teams because championship level teams have such a different mindset. And, you had to be tough. You had to have a defensive mindset. I played with Kid and, it's amazing how Kid has embraced Kyrie because they would hate Kyrie as a player if he was playing, Kid used to murder people with those looks, man. He would cut you with his eyes and he was so tough on guys, which is how it's supposed to be, if everyone seems so offended when they saw The Last Dance of how Michael Jordan was hard on his teammates. Man, I'm gonna tell you guys, man, winning is hard in the league, and the margins are so small. And I remember I did something wrong, and Jason Kidd cut me with those eyes. He was like, "What are you doing?" And then I never made that mistake again. It was so profound in my career that it was as clear as day that you don't do that. You just don't you don't cut to the basket when he throws you the ball. You don't kick it out. He's already made that decision for you. You take it, you go up strong. You don't go up weak. And I just felt that's kind of how it was back in the day. But now I've never played with guys who were this talented. And to me, covering him, I just can't understand why he picks and chooses when he wants to play hard. I would think in the NBA, and he's not playing 82 games either. In the NBA, it's such an unbelievable opportunity. Why not play hard every single night? There are guys that do that. There are guys that bring it every night. How come when you're that talented, how come you don't want to bring it every single night and be one of the best players in the NBA? I'll never understand that.
Brian Scalabrine here on 105 through the Fan. Is Dame Lillard, does Dame end up in Miami?
Yeah, he does, but I don't think it's just going to be a straight trade. I think Brooklyn's going to get involved. I could see Philly getting involved. I could see Utah getting involved. Like, Danny's probably had like an obsession with Ben Simmons for a while. You know, like I think I have a feeling this trade is going to kick off a lot of things. And I think if I'm Joe Cronin, right, Miami doesn't have enough for me. I want players and draft capital. So when you start going around there and looking, like, how can I get a draft pick from this team? How can I get a couple draft picks from that team? You know, is Utah, maybe would they give me 2 draft picks if we can get Ben Simmons to Utah and I could, you know, ship off a couple guys like Nasir Little and Yusef Nurkic. So if I think Joe Cronin is really playing this the right way. You want him to go to Miami, but you want to make sure you get as many teams as possible in. You might have a guy you like. I'll just throw out a name like OG Abaji from Utah. There's a way to like get him on my team. I'm going to try to do that. So there's a lot of ways that you can try to improve your roster. I don't think it's Tyler Hero for Damian Lillard. I just think it's way more complex than that. But I do think he ends up in Miami.
Where's Miami in the East if it happens?
If they get Nurkic, so they have Nurkic, Bam, Jimmy Butler, and I think they would try to look to move Kyle Lowry. Yeah, they're up there. You can't count out the Bucks. You can't count out the Celtics. You know, Embiid's the MVP. So I think all those teams will be in the conversation. I like what the Knicks did. So, you know, like anything could happen in these things, like any injuries and stuff like that. But I think that a lot of people would pick the Miami Heat to be in the. It'd be interesting to see if kind of you follow DraftKings or FanDuel or whatever. It'll be interesting to see with all this talk of Dame going, how much have the odds changed for Miami? Because right now I think they were 8th heading into free agency to win a championship. I think those odds would improve.
Scout, who is another team whose offseason you're either loving or just don't understand? From signings this past weekend, combining with draft picks, someone who you love the direction they're going, or someone where you're not getting it?
Dallas? No, just
hey.
No, I mean, listen, I love the kid and I love that team, but it's like the Kyrie thing is just confusing to me. I don't get the Houston thing. I don't think we've ever had it before. It's kind of unprecedented when you have like this young team all of a sudden spending a bunch of money on like adults. I don't ever remember like a team having this like youth movement and they're losing all these games, all of a sudden signing like older guys. I tell you who I know a lot of people like what the Lakers are doing. I'll see about that. I don't know like how. The question is how much LeBron is going to drop off. We have no idea. Like everyone's declining hill. It always goes from shallow to steep at one point. And that might not be this year. It might be in the second half. It might be later. It might be 2 years from now. It's going to happen at some point. When that happens, is Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura good enough when that happens? But they did get those guys for good deals. I'll tell you who's sneaky good right now, I think, as having a good offseason is Cleveland. I just think like the guys that they added are guys that are going to help and accentuate Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. So they're a team that I thought was really good last year, but they clearly lacked shooting, and they went out there and made a big emphasis on shooting. So they could be a team that can really get off to a hot start and become a big time team. But really, when we're talking about free agencies, you want teams that are able to make those moves to get NBA championship worthy. Celtics with Porzingis, if he's healthy, could be good. And I think the Miami with Damian Lillard, if they get him, they couldn't have had a better offseason.
We appreciate you suffering at the wrath of Kyrie's Twitter fingers and joining us on the day off for many, man. We had to get you on. Thank you, Scal.
Yeah, anytime.